Right. Okay, it is recording now. Okay. Oh, Croatia. Amazing, amazing. Well, welcome everyone. My name is Malobi. I'm the president of the Pan-African Hemp Association. Um, it's crazy. I sent out this sort of link or this event to our group internally, and there was a lot of interest. So I just thought, let me post it on a few hemp forums, and it got quite a lot more of a response than I expected. So I guess this is an interesting subject for everyone. Um, Let me go ahead and share my screen. Share my screen. Great. Amazing, guys. So just make sure everyone can hear me. I'm not muted. Hi. Well, good evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you guys are. My name is Malobi Ogbechi. I'm the president of the Pan-African Hemp Association. This is an association that really got started last year in about September time. And since then, we've been growing. We've got partners all over Africa, partners in America. We're having conversations with guys in Europe. I myself from the UK, moved back to Africa last year as well. So really growing, and it's really great to see new faces, you know, both in Africa and outside of Africa. We're all getting united over hemp. And, you know, that's really great to see because it shows there's a great passion for this product. Whether you're on the fiber side, the CBD side, whatever it is, it's great to see everyone kind of uniting over this real game changer for the next 10, 20 years. So, oh yeah, and the title of today is obviously growing hemp versus CBD, CBD versus fiber, sorry. So a little bit about our association, just a quick bit of housekeeping so you guys know who we are, who you're talking to, etc. We've got three pillars: educate, advocate, and innovate. So we're really trying to educate people in Africa about hemp. Some of you that are outside of Africa, you're still kind of doing that work. You know, I was in the UK, and, you know, educating people about hemp as well. You know, obviously you tell people about hemp, they're like, oh, isn't that marijuana? So it's not just an African thing, it's not just an American thing. There are countries that are making more headways, but we are doing pretty much the same thing with a lot of these associations. We're really trying to get people talking about hemp, understanding what it is, advocating for it, lobbying, and then also bringing business opportunities together, because it's one thing talking about it, but we really want to see more and more hemp projects on the ground, whether it's from the hempcrete to the food, to the textiles, to everything. We really want to start seeing more and more real life hemp projects taking off. And just a quick bit about what we're kind of aiming to do. What we're focusing on is also trying to encourage a bit of indigenous ownership in the industrial hemp value chain. So we want to encourage farmers in Africa to get involved in the hemp value chain. We want processors to, you know, have their own equipment, have their own processing facilities. We want people to really get hands-on. And really what we're trying to say is that, you know, yes, we want multinational, yes, we want foreign direct investment in Africa, but we also think that there's a way that we can balance that so that both parties can benefit from it. And that's what we're really all about, really, is getting the people on the ground, connected with the people that are bringing the money in, and making sure that everyone's benefiting from that mutual partnership. So, sorry about this. For those of you that are hemp connoisseurs, I'm sorry, but we're going to have to go back to basics because, you know, you never know. Some people, there's a lot of new people coming to these calls. You know, you got to really go from the start and just talk a little bit about what hemp is. So those of you that already know this stuff, I'm sorry, but we'll just have to quickly go through it. So hemp comes from the cannabis sativa plant, as a lot of you will know. Hemp and marijuana, they're coming from the same sort of species. One way that a guy that I saw on a TED Talk described it is that, you know, dogs versus wolves, right? So they share the same ancestor, but they're not exactly the same thing, right? So that's the way I like to look at the two. So hemp and the marijuana or cannabis, or however there's so many different distinctive words, but I'd like to split it into like sort of industrial hemp and marijuana to keep it quite simple. And obviously hemp has negligible amounts of THC. And THC is the part of the cannabis plant that produces the psychoactive effect, although we are learning a lot more about the cannabinoids in the cannabis plant. So there's a lot more knowledge every day about the different CBG, CBN, all that kind of stuff. And then, yeah, hemp is often referred to as industrial hemp, agricultural hemp. So we are the Pan-African Hemp Association. Just to distinct ourselves, we're not the Pan-African Marijuana or Cannabis Association. We do come across people from that industry. So, but we're just kind of, the reason why I also like to put this slide here is to make people know that we're not actually involved in the high THC stuff. We're purely focused on the industrial hemp and CBD kind of stuff. So many uses of hemp. Again, I don't want to be kind of preaching to the choir here, but for those of you that are new to hemp, different parts of the hemp can be used for many different products. You're harvesting the leaves, the flowers, the seeds, the stalk, the roots. Some of the biggest industries, start around this time moving forward, or the biggest potential, I think, the hemp construction. So the hempcrete, hemp insulation, the automotive parts. Obviously, the CBD is huge right now. And also, with the vegan community, the hemp seeds, there's biodiesel, there's biomass, there's so many different things that can be made from hemp. There's a book by Jack Herrera, if you haven't read it, that goes through, basically an encyclopedia for hemp. So I'd absolutely recommend that book. I think it's called the Hemperor Wears No Clothes. Correct me if I'm wrong in the chat. But hemp has many uses, as a lot of you may know. And that's what we're really about. We're really about getting people to understand the many uses, and to promote it across the continent. And then I like to put this slide because a lot of people that I talk to about hemp just assume that, oh, if I'm getting involved in hemp, I have to be, a farmer, I have to be in the agricultural side of things. But it's a whole industry, right? So there's many different verticals you can get into. You don't just have to get into the cultivation side of things. You can be in the processing side of things, whether it's to the industrial hemp or the manufacturing, the medicinal. You can get into the sort of e-commerce and the online and retail and distribution side. And then there's also like the professional services side. If you want to specialize, if you're in the legal side of things, you can specialize in the hemp and cannabis industry. Finance, that's a huge one. As many of you know, any of you that are in the CBD industry, it's very difficult to get a payment processor for your e-commerce side because it's deemed as a high risk product, right? So marketing, marketing hemp and CBD products can be quite difficult because of Facebook ads and Google ads not allowing you to market your products. So if you can provide a digital marketing service specifically catered to the hemp or the cannabis industry, you're onto something. So I like to put that there to kind of encourage people and make people know that you don't have to just be involved from a farming perspective. So moving on to the topic of the day. I just wanted to start off by giving you kind of a visual of how the two would look. So the picture you see on the left there is hemp being grown for CBD. As you can see there, there's a lot of spacing. So there's a lot of like about 3 feet apart. The way that the CBD hemp plants look, they're a bit bushier compared to the taller and thinner looking industrial hemp plants, which I'll be showing on the next slide. Getting into the CBD industry, as many of you will know, you want to be getting feminized or yeah, I mean, I don't want to get too deep into the genetics of it, but you want to be getting feminized seeds as opposed to males, and you don't want to be cross-pollinating and all that. Those of you that are in CBD will know what we're talking about here. And then you don't actually need as much land for the sort of CBD cultivation because of the kind of ROI per acre compared to industrial hemp, although industrial hemp has many different products you can harvest. But right now, in terms of per acre, because of the CBD boom that's going on right now, Again, I'm just giving my opinion. You know, the ROI on CBD is a bit higher right now, but in the future, I believe the industrial hemp is you know, a more sustainable growth. But you know, maybe I'm a bit biased. We'll discuss that in the Q&A. So when it comes to the labor, cultivation of hemp for CBD is a bit more hands-on. It's a bit more labor intensive. When you know, monitoring the plants and making sure there's no males, and you know, trimming and all that kind of stuff. So it's a lot more hands-on. You know, it requires a lot more attention, so to speak. So that's another thing to keep in mind. So, and then moving on to the equipment, there's a lot more equipment involved, obviously, depending on what kind of production you're doing, right? But a lot of the time, there's not as much equipment per se needed for the sort of harvesting and processing of CBD. Again, please, in the Q&A, we can discuss this. I want you to tell me if you think I'm wrong, Malobi, you're wrong because X, Y, Z. So, you know, but from my experience, I've found that it tends to be the more equipment, the more machinery for the harvesting and the processing for the industrial hemp side of things. Because with the CBD, it depends on what scale you're really doing things. And there's no decortication in the process, right? So you're just harvesting the flowers. But yeah, moving on to the fiber. That picture on the left is from a member of our group, the Pan-African Hemp Association. So that picture actually was taken, oh, the one before actually was taken in Lesotho, which is a little country in the south of Africa. Yeah, basically in south of Africa. And then here, this picture actually was taken in Germany by my colleague, and they're basically growing the hemp for in the industrial purposes. As you can see here, the plants are a lot taller than the one in the previous slide. And yeah, you tend to get more weeds when you're planting the industrial hemp. There's a mix, there's a kind of a quote unquote healthier mix of males and females, and it's not so much you're trying to, you know, get rid of something and you have to deal with hermaphrodites and all that kind of stuff. So they're all kind of living happily ever after together. And so it's, as you can see already, just by looking at it visually, you know, growing hemp for CBD and growing hemp for fiber visually is quite different, right? In the hemp for fiber, you see it's all kind of packed together. You have more plants sort of per square meter. In the CBD side, it's a bit more spaced out. You're more hands-on. You know, it's already, you're kind of beginning to see it from a kind of agricultural and a genetic point of view, how different things are. And then when it comes to the labor, it's a lot less hands-on than with the CBD. At the end of the presentation, actually, what I did was I created a kind of profile of, you know, the very, I guess I created in the marketing terms a customer profile, right? So the kind of person that could be more interested in CBD and the kind of person that'll be more interested in fiber, just to kind of get your brains going and thinking, well, which one is for me if you're interested in either kind of path. And then with the equipment, yeah, we've got the seed separators, the gravity tables, the decorticators, and then you got further processing on depending on what industry, you know, bioplastics, insulation, seed processing, and all that kind of stuff. So already you can see there's a lot more machinery and capital involved. But again, it all depends on the operation. You know, our guest tonight is going to talk a little bit about her operation. And, you know, depending on the operation is what kind of equipment you use. You know, when you're processing CBD, you can be using ethanol extraction, you can be using carbon dioxide extractors. So there's different kinds of equipment depending on the way you're doing it. So this is not a one size fits all. This is just general things to think about. So again, this is not the everyone CBD processing stages, but you know, this is just, say for example, my colleague that's going to talk later, this is kind of a rough idea of what to expect in terms of the CBD processing. So, you know, chopping the plant, drying it, trimming it, curing it. And don't worry, guys, there'll be a recording after this. So if I'm moving a bit too fast, don't worry about that. You can watch that later. I just want to make sure that we have enough time for a discussion. And then moving on to processing, you know, you put that, you know, hemp into a processor, you decarboxylate it, and then you get that final CBD extract that can be added to edibles and topical products, etc., etc. So if you're doing CBD and you're like, Malobi, this is not how I do it, this is not how you do it, I understand. There's not a one size fits all. Everyone has their own sort of process for the CBD. But this is just a kind of people that are kind of new to it, just to have a look and see what kind of work is involved in it. Now looking at the fiber processing, so you know, you can take off the top of the plant, you leave the stalk to dry out maybe for a few days, and then once it's dried, you can sort of run them through a decorticator, and then the decorticator separates the inner part of the stalk and the outer part of the stalk. Again, this is just literally just for the fiber part. We're not talking about the seeds and other parts of the plant that can be used. And then for those of you that are not familiar, the stalk has two parts, you could say. One is the inner part and one is the outer part. So the outer part is called the bast fiber. It's a longer fiber. It tends to be used more for the kind of textiles, whereas the inner core is called the hurd, and that's used more for the construction and the paper sort of industries. So again, not, you know, you guys might say, okay, what about the baling? And you know, some people might not do the baling, some people do. There's not a one size fits all. It also may depend on what you're, you know, processing the hemp for. But again, these are just kind of general guidelines for people that are new to the process. Pros and cons. Now, I didn't want to make this list exhaustive, but I just put the kind of key things to kind of think about, right? So pros and cons of growing hemp for CBD. Let's start with the pros. You can, at the moment, you know, you can probably get more money per acre. Obviously, that depends. You have to take into account how much the labor costs and the equipment costs and all that. But all things being equal, you can probably get more value for money per acre, per land size, right? You need a lot less land to grow CBD to get enough of an ROI. And then on the con side, it's a bit more hands-on. It's a bit more labor intensive, excuse the typo. Now, this point I put controversial in brackets because against Mother Nature. I didn't really want to put this point, but I'm in the CBD industry, you know, just a caveat. So this is not anything against CBD, but, you know, some people say, for example, if you're, you know, you're one of those people that loves to do things as naturally as possible, and you don't want to be dealing with removing the male plants and feminizing seeds and or cloning feminized seeds, etc. Maybe you might be more on the fiber side. So it's a bit of a wishy-washy point, but you know, this is something to think about. And then yeah, it's a bigger learning curve with, you know, if you're you know, say for example, third generation farmer, and you want to get into something that's, you know, bringing ROI, but you don't want to go into the whole learning process, maybe the fiber might be better for you because the CBD does have its own little things that are quite unique and, you know, a bit more difficult to learn. Whereas, you know, if you've got a large farm, you've got a few extra hectares or whatever, you can grow the hemp as well. And it's and the hemp plant, something that I haven't gone through on this presentation, is the phytoremediation, which is basically the putting of nutrients back into the soil, or sometimes the taking out of the toxins from the soil. So that is kind of good because it can be healthy for your land and as a rotational crop. So things to think about. And then moving on to the pros and cons of growing hemp for fiber. Now let's start off with the pros, right? So you're just using a lot more of the plant, right? With the fiber, you can use the seed, the flower, the bust, the herd. You just, there's basically, if you want to, you can use every single part of the plant. I know some processors in Europe who literally just do that, and they grow cultivars that are able to be used for every single part. They can get the CBD, they can get the seeds, they can get the construction materials, and it's amazing. So that is a really, really big point on the fiber side. And it creates many industries. And one thing that I've really noticed since starting the Pan-African Hemp Association is that a lot of our members are really more interested in the fiber side of things. And some of the time it's to do with really about infrastructure, development projects within the country. And again, if you're on the CBD side, I'm in CBD as well, but don't take this the wrong way. But they don't want to do something to make money, right? They want to do something that is going to transform their economy. But you could argue, obviously, that CBD, by bringing more money into the economy, it creates more jobs and et cetera, et cetera. They're not saying that, but you can create a lot of different industries. You can split off to the automotive and the food and the construction and the textiles and all that. So and yeah, it's green technologies. Green tech is where the future is going. For those of you in the States, Biden is a bit more towards the green side, is more green leaning, you could say. And then on the con side, you need to invest in quite a bit of equipment, depending, however, on whether you're getting into the processing side of things. But still, to harvest the plant, it's not something you can just do with your hands, right? With the fiber. So that's something to think about. And I wouldn't say you need a large plot of land to get value, but you need probably more than you would with the CBD in most cases. So those are the kind of pros and cons. And just to kind of wrap things up on my end before I pass it on to our guest speaker, I just created some profiles, right? So we got Kwame on the left over there. He's inherited a family farm after many generations. They already have access to 50 plus hectares of land in Ghana. He doesn't necessarily have a huge team of people that are ready to get hands on and trimming and all that kind of stuff. Maybe he has other crops like, I don't know which crops would be in the Ghana the right ones to use, but let's just say, for example, maize and all that kind of stuff. And he just wants to grow another kind of crop that can maybe be a rotational crop, maybe a way to just kind of make more money on the side. And maybe as well, Kwame is not necessarily interested in making his own final product. He's not necessarily interested in, taking that processed material and making it into something else, right? Maybe he just wants to farm his land, get that fiber and ship it off to the next person, right? So again, these are just kind of general profiles, but in my opinion, Kwame would probably fit more into the fiber side, right? And guys, please don't take this as, the only way to go. These are just guidelines. We've got Choma to the left, to the right, to my right. Maybe she's more interested in the healing benefits of CBD. She's potentially interested in starting her own skincare line with CBD. She's only got access to about 5 acres. She wants maybe a high return on investment. She's got a group of friends that are, ready to jump on board and help her to start this project. Maybe Choma would lean more to the side of the sort of CBD farmer or the CBD processor. So those are kind of rough profiles. I hope those help, and I hope those haven't confused people, and I hope no one's pulling their hair out and saying, no, but I'm like this, but I think this way. But again, we'll leave that up to the discussion, guys. And thank you, guys. So I will now pass things over to our guest speaker, Maya. 1 second, Maya, let me just stop sharing my screen. Maya is the founder of Hemp Farms. Actually, you know what, Maya, why don't you get on, unmute yourself and just do your introductions and let people know what you do. Maybe show us a bit around your your project.
Okay, sounds good. Can everybody hear me? Can you hear me good?
Yep, we can.
All right, perfect. Well, thank you so much for having me. Happy to be here. I am a vertically integrated CBD cultivation facility. So basically what that means is that we are from seed to bottle. So we literally go all the way from germination into propagation and vegetation into flower and harvest, trimming, drying, curing, and we also have an extractor here at our facility, which is also an upscale hemp dispensary. So I thought it was key from when I started to have products. So we grow hemp that's behind you here for all of our products. So that's what I mean when I say we are seed to bottle and we are vertically integrated, because currently we do control the entire supply chain from beginning to end, all the way from the seed to the customer's hands. My company name is Hempress Farms. I'll put our Instagram link into the chat in a few moments. So you can definitely follow our progress. We've been growing for about a year now, and I'm just gonna turn my camera around so you can see the vegetation grow. We have about, I'd say 60 or 70 plants in here right now. I'll just kind of give you a tour. So of course you're gonna need fans. These fans, I turned these off just so you guys could hear me better because it's kind of loud. But when you have your fans, they need to be oscillating, which means they're gonna go to the right and to the left continuously. You want your leaves to be blowing just like that in the wind. So this is our vegetation grow. We have, and this is a perfect example of a plant that needs water. It'll start drooping a little bit. So that's your perfect sign that you need to water your plant. The rest of them are fine. We use these fabric pots here. So it's high porosity soil. So the soil really is great for hemp. And when we water it, the water goes through the bag and gives it a lot of aeration. I don't think I'm saying the right word. But this is our grow. We have some clones over here. And here we use Rockwell cubes. And so when they get strong enough, we'll put them here. I just got this, I actually love it because it grows some really powerful plants. So this is called a tower garden. It's basically aeroponics, which is basically hydroponics, but there's a huge tub of water here with nutrients in it, and it shoots up water throughout all of the towers so that these baby plants can get their correct nutrients and water. So these have been in here for, I'd say, about 4 days or so. I've noticed that with the aeroponics versus putting the seed into soil over there, these clones become a lot more powerful. This is the mother plant here. I'm gonna keep it here. And when you have a plant in vegetation, these are photoperiod plants. So it's gonna stay in vegetation its entire life until we switch it to the flower stage, which would be 12 on and 12 off for lights. Also, at any point in time, you guys stop me and ask me a question so I don't just ramble on. I want to talk about what you guys actually want to know. So at any point in time, feel free to stop me for a question. Okay.
Maya, I can ask. I just want to ask you a couple questions. So,
Yeah.
why are you growing indoors? For those people that might be interested in finding that out.
Yeah, so we're growing indoors because it's winter here. We have an outdoor grow only in the summer. I don't know for a fact if we're going to do it again because I'm not sure if outdoors is lucrative when you're growing for flowers. Excuse me. I think I agree with your point that it's definitely more lucrative, in my opinion, and less work for the fiber on the outdoor. So I'm still mulling over that. We grew 300 plants on the outdoor on half an acre. So the flower was amazing though. So it was very high quality. Excuse me, guys, I got a phone call. It was very high quality flower and it was excellent for our products. So I must say that. So when you take into account the money and the work that went into it, it does make it worth it when you process the flower for oil and make extract for products. So you're gonna make 4 or 5 times more than you normally would if you do that. So we definitely grow outdoor. We may do that again. It just all depends. We're growing indoor right now. I'm gonna turn this back around. We're growing indoor right now so that the plants can survive, because of course they can't survive the excuse me, let me just turn this around. Sorry guys. Okay. They cannot survive the winter. So these lights here are acting as the sun. You'll see that there's an AC unit over here. If I turn that AC unit off, it would get very hot in here. It'd get about 90 to 100 degrees. So these lights are super, super powerful. They're acting as the sun for all of these plants. The thing about hemp plants is that they like balance. So you're gonna have fans that are blowing air out into the room, and then you're gonna need a blower. Our blower in this case is in the ceiling here and here, that's gonna pull air out of the room. So these plants love to have balance. We have here a humidifier, and then we have over here a dehumidifier. So we have here lights, and then we have the AC. So these plants like balance. Not to mention the fact that we have to have this chemical here. Well, it's not a chemical, it's still organic, but it basically ensures that we have the right pH. This is a pH tester. So this is critical when you're growing indoors, because these plants, they like to have their pH between 5.9 and 6.5 pH. So if they're too high on the alkaline, they will die. If they're too acidic, they will die. So this tool right here is critical for growing indoors. And you're gonna adjust your pH with your up and down that way. Any other questions on that?
And then I guess guys, by the way, if you got a question, feel free to drop it in the chat. What made you get into CBD? I mean, was it, yeah, just what made you choose to get into CBD in general?
Yeah, well, I love the plants ever since I was a kid. So I come from a family that utilizes the plant for many different reasons.
Mm-hmm.
So I grew up with that, and actually own a day spa as well. Been in business for about 9 or 10 years, but then COVID-19 hit. So all day spas were shut down, we were complete lockdown, and I had already been learning how to be a master grower from a consultant for about a year or so before that. So I used that opportunity because we were essential as far as agriculture to stay. Sorry, my phone rang. We were essential and we were able to stay open. So I basically repurposed my spa into an hemp dispensary and cultivation facility.
Ah,
And I'll kind of show you this is actually our lobby. So you'll see the different products that we created, all types of products, tinctures, oils. This is what Forbes and Business Insider, this is what they're talking about when they're talking about CBD being the next billion-dollar industry. They're talking about products. They're not necessarily talking about flour. They're talking about oils. They're talking about body butters. They're talking about teas. They're talking about tinctures, things of that nature. So if you are growing for CBD, I'll go back into the grow. If you are growing for CBD, it's going to be critical that you go ahead and formulate your products. So I did that actually before I ever planted a seed. I had 2 CBD products that were already selling. So that's going to be critical if you're selling. No, I'm sorry. If you're going to be a farmer, you want to go ahead and create yourself a distribution channel. So in this case, our distribution channel is going to be our website. It's going to be here at our upscale hemp dispensary, and of course, social media as much as possible. So that's going to be key. Any other questions?
and what was it like, the learning curve? Like how long did it take you to get the hang of it? You know, what were the challenges you encountered on your learning journey?
Yeah, so basically it's not that hard. Once you get the basics of it, how to pH balance water, how to add the nutrients to your water, um, when to water, things of that nature. Once you get that down, it's actually pretty easy. It's pretty scientific. So in the beginning, it can be a little tough. But I'd say just ask the people that are around you that know, ask your consultant. You guys can always contact me. I'll help in any way I can when it comes to questions. But really, it's good to learn and take classes before you start growing. It's going to be so key to learn before you start, because if you don't, you're really going to spend a lot of money with mistakes. So hemp, especially indoor, even outdoor, it's critical that you really know what you're doing, because if you don't, those plants will die.
Yeah.
But it actually wasn't horrible, because the world shut down and then I started growing. So there was literally nothing else for me to do but grow and focus on that. So
Mm.
it kind of worked out perfectly.
Fair enough, fair enough. And then moving on to equipment costs. So what are there any bits of equipment that are absolute essentials, and are there some that are going to kind of break the bank, so to speak, and you just gotta pay the money and just close your eyes and pay for it, right? What are those essentials, and how are they expensive? What are the kind of costs for people?
Okay, so all that's going to depend on the size of your grow. There are people that literally grow in their homes in a closet, and that type of setup can cost a couple of $100s. But I'll tell you that this light here is called a T2 light, vegetation light. It costs about $300 per light. So it's not horrible, and these lights are super durable and they last for a really long time. And they'll definitely get your money's worth from these lights. The fans are super cheap. The AC unit is a couple of $100s. The biggest costs are definitely going to be your lights and your location. So I used to grow in a rent house that I had. When the tenants moved out, I grew in there and I brought tents. So I would say those, they're called Gorilla Grow tents, but I bought some tents that, if you look at our Instagram, you'll see them. Those tents were to protect the house, but they were super expensive. In hindsight, I would say do not buy tents and just get a location where you can have a room like this. So you can save money on tents, because those costs, we had about 4 tents and they cost like almost $5,000 for the tents. Um, so your lights are really going to depend on how big your grow is. This tower garden, I love it. It's actually for vegetables, but I think that it grows hemp way better than anything else. So that's what I use it for.
Nice.
That one is 1,200, but they do let you pay monthly. So it's something that you can definitely build on as well. For example, if you go to Amazon, you can literally find grow lights that are like $100. So you don't have to spend that much. And I suggest you don't spend too much money when you're learning, especially in the beginning, just to keep your costs low and really get through a few harvests and figure out what you're doing before you, and then you can always upgrade your lights in the future. You can just get a light here, get a light there. But we basically pulled the trigger on this operation. So our whole operation, and this is not the flower grow, this is just vegetation, but all of it together was about 30,000 US dollars.
Okay, okay. We've got a question coming in from Alex. He says, "How long is a growth cycle for CBD flowering?"
Okay, so we're going to germinate the seed. And once we germinate the seed, and basically we take a seed, we put it in a paper towel, and then we wet the paper towel nice and damp, and then we put that in a plastic bag in a dark place. So I'll come back and check that in about a day or two. Normally on the second or third day, that seed now has a sprout. So you can take that sprout and you can put it either in a Rockwell cube, excuse me, you can put it in a Rockwell cube, or you can put it right in soil, right in the dirt, in like a little cup like this. I'll show you actually. You can put it in a little solo cup like that. So it's going to take 3 days to sprout. It's going to take about 2 weeks to get to 2.5 weeks to get to a point like this. And then you're going to up pot it and put it in a larger pot so that the roots can expand more and the plant can get bigger and healthier. And then once they're here in this pot, you're going to leave them there for about 2 months, so about 8 weeks. I like for my plants to be at least this high. This is about waist high before I send them to flower, because I get a larger yield that way. So the larger the plant is before you go into flower, right now this is vegetation, the more yield you're going to get. So some people might grow them in vegetation for longer than 2 months. just to make them super tall before they go into flower. But normally it's going to be 2 months in vegetation and then 2 months in flower.
Amazing.
So about 4 months.
Awesome, awesome. Guys, we've got a really quiet audience today, but guys, any questions? Just don't be afraid to just throw it in the chat. And so I guess another question would be: do you ever consider growing for fiber, or were you just you were already doing CBD and then you just kind of backward integrated, and you didn't really think about the fiber?
Yeah, I definitely thought about that. And the only reason I did not grow for fiber this first time was the fact that I had no idea about any fiber processors. So I couldn't really fathom how to make money on that after it was completed. Also, I didn't know enough about the land and, sorry, I got a phone call. I didn't know enough about the land to do that. So I opted for flower because I knew that we could sell the flower. I knew that we could make the products from the flower. So I went with flower with that. However, I definitely want to get into fiber because, like you said, I think it is definitely the future as far as textiles and fabrics and hempcrete and everything. It's literally going to save the world. And especially in such a vast land as everywhere in Africa, you guys have a really unique opportunity there for fiber. So yeah, definitely want to get into fiber for sure.
Definitely. By the way, for those of you that are farmers in the USA of hemp fiber, we do get people reach out to us regarding projects. So please fill out the form or send me an email. I'll drop the email in a second. There's a hemp fiber project coming up. So if you're a hemp farmer and you're into the fiber, just drop me a message and we'll be happy to work with you. Okay, Erin says, looks deep-rooted, wondering if it could be used in rotation to lower water table in crops that can cause anaerobic soils like tomatoes. Right, that sounds very technical. Have you seen that?
Is he talking about the machine? I think he might be talking about the aeroponic machine.
Oh, right. Anaerobic soil. Oh, okay. Well, thanks for the
While you figure that out, I just wanted to point out a comment. Another reason why we grew for flower, flower, is because the simple fact that we do know that cannabis is going to be legal federally here at some point. So this is a chance for us to get the infrastructure down and get harvest under our belt and know what we're doing. So when that happens, all we need to do is change the strand to a high THC strand, and then we're in business, in a matter of days. So that's another very important reason why we grow for flower, because we want the infrastructure for when it is going to be legal.
Oh, wow. Yeah. That's a really good, interesting point. Alex also says, is there an in-between where hemp can be grown for both CBD flower and fibers? Short answer is yes, it's possible. I do know of a company in the Netherlands that does do that, but they have been, doing the whole growing their own kind of seeds and doing the genetics for a while, and they've manufactured their own special kind of machinery, and all of it is like IP protected and stuff. So it is possible. It is definitely possible. You can do that. I don't know. What do you think, Maya?
You can, but the thing is, when you're growing for flower, you have to keep the males away. You have to keep the males away from the females, because what's going to happen is that you're going to start out growing some amazing flower, and it's going to look actually like real weed. It's not. It's hemp. But if it gets pollinated by a male plant, then it's going to turn from a really good looking flower to just like regular old, we call it Reggie here in the US, or we call it Babbage. But you want your hemp flower to be super duper frosty. I'll actually show you an example, but this example I'm going to show you could not be achieved if it was grown with a male plant, and then maybe that'll kind of help you understand. So let's see. Give me one moment, guys. Pull out this bag. We're actually going to harvest today, so follow us on LinkedIn to see that in Instagram. But this is hemp flower. Do you see how nice and frosty it looks? Can you see that?
Yeah, I see that. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so the reason why we don't grow together for fiber is we want our flower to look like that and not kind of look like, regular,
I
home.
see what you
Yeah.
mean. For sure.
Yeah, because we get top dollar for that type of hemp flower.
Yeah, that makes sense. What's the best way? Oh, okay. So yeah, Reginald's asking. I think it's directed at me. What's the best way to get into a collaboration if you don't have the resources? If you're in Africa, fill out the membership form, which is the second one. If you're outside of Africa, fill out the partners form, and we will find a way to work with you. So, Reginald, thanks for the question. We're always looking to network and meet new people and collaborate in whatever way. And like I said, we get projects, people reaching out to us for projects all over the world. And sometimes we're like, we don't even do that. So, we can pass it on to other people. So yeah, please do fill out those forms. Is it possible to get CBD extract from South Africa to the UK? Yes. So I know a company that's currently was growing, not necessarily South Africa, but it was Lesotho.
How old are you? Spin your hat around backwards. Oh, like it's fucking idiot.
Sorry, who's that? Is that an accidental? Okay. Anyways, yeah. So I've had a company in the UK that I used to work with. They do CBD skincare, and he's asked for CBD oil from Africa as well. So yeah, you can absolutely do that. Obviously, you got to keep in mind the THC levels. So in the States, the THC levels is higher. The THC levels that is allowed for hemp is higher in the States than it is in Europe. In the States is like 0.3, and then in Europe is like 0.2. So you have to be very careful with that. There was a guy that harvested some CBD in Lesotho, as I was talking about, and they were at like 0.4 or something, and they literally couldn't sell to anyone. So just make sure that your THC levels are right for the market that you're targeting. And yeah, there are buyers in the UK that are looking to buy, because the UK doesn't have that much land. And if you can grow at scale and get it at an affordable price and it's a good quality product, you will get buyers for your product. The UK does tend to import a lot of stuff because for some reason in the UK it's legal to grow hemp, but you can't harvest the flowers. It's a weird situation over there. Okay. Yeah, so the answer to that is yes, Victoria. In Winston, North Carolina, it appears to be nearly impossible to find someone who's willing to collaborate with someone who doesn't have the resources. Don't worry, you can work with us. You can work with us, Reginald.
Yeah, you can call me too if you're in
Yeah.
Winston-Salem. We're actually about to harvest 37 plants, so we can use help trimming. And while you're trimming, you can ask me anything you like.
Yo, that's amazing. We got a connection right there. Amazing.
Yes.
Yeah, Alex. Yeah, I do imagine it is optimal for either of those. The equipment. So my brother's in the hydroponic equipment business. So yeah, you can use the same equipment for tomatoes. It's indoor growing equipment at the end of the day. So you can be flexible with it. Right. Great.
I also wanted to point out too that when we first started, basically, I didn't have the money to buy any of this. So I sold the plants. So I just sent out a couple of Facebook posts to my Facebook feed. And I was like, hey guys, you can buy a plant for $100. I will cultivate it for you. I'll cultivate this clone for you, and I'll give you back $200. So each plant is probably going to produce just kind of break it down. Each plant might produce, depending on how tall it is, about $450 per plant. So the thought was to sell the flower, give them back their money, and take that money and move forward. So that's how we got the seed money to get all of this equipment. We sold per plant.
I see. Okay, so yeah, you can just get that flower going. Okay, and yeah.
Hello, can I ask a question?
Yeah, yeah. Who is that? Speaking?
My name's Sagasta Dawn from the UK.
Yeah. Hi, Gassa.
You're right there. I just wanted to ask, if you're cultivating for CBD, what is the process to actually extracting the CBD oil from the flower? Or do you deal with that side, or do you just sell the flower on?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I'll go ahead and just show you, actually. Give me one moment. So we use a machine called a nug smasher, and it's right here. So this is called a nug smasher. So what we do is we turn it on here, and then it's gonna heat those plates up to 215 degrees, 213 degrees. You can see it counting up. These plates here are steel metal plates, all right? So what we do is we put them tight together, we let them heat up to the correct temperature, and then we release it like this. And then we'll take some hemp flower and we will put it in there as it gets farther apart. And then once it's in there, we're gonna put parchment paper in there, and then we just press it with the hemp flower in it. And then when that happens, a rosin comes out. And let's see if I can show you an example of that. Yeah. So when you do that, a rosin like this comes out. You see that? That's basically the frosty thingies on the flower. So that heat was able to extract this rosin right here. Then we decarb that rosin. You have to keep it frozen because it's so sticky. And don't touch your eyes because you'll burn your eye. And I've done it a million times. So that's how we do that. And then we decarb it, and then it's ready to make products.
Awesome, awesome.
Okay,
Thank you for that
amazing. Thank you.
demonstration, actually. Okay, and then yeah, someone said that USA has made changes to the THC levels at the beginning of 2022. Thanks for that. Yeah, regarding the equipment, it depends on what country you're in, really. What I'd recommend for that, Alex, is to reach out to the main processors, farmers in the country that you're in, and they'll be able to point you to the right direction. But yeah, there's been a focus on other crops. So depending on what you're processing, the right equipment might not be there, or if it's there, it's outdated, or you might have to import it from Romania or something. So it all depends on what you're processing and what you're making. And I'll just reach out to Google, people that are doing the stuff in your country, and I'm sure that people in this industry are very helpful, so they'll definitely be able to point you in the right direction. And Nina, you've had your hand up. You've got a question?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, I can
Okay.
indeed.
Okay, well, I was going to ask an equipment question too. I had two questions. With these decorticators for industrial hemp, what would you say the average price is? It's looking to me like $1 million, but I need to do more research. Does
Um,
that sound about right?
I don't know off the top of my head, to be honest, and I don't want to just pick numbers out of the air. But it's not a cheap bit of equipment, and it also depends on if you want something specialized for hemp, or if you want to use, because the decorticators are used for many different kind of crops. So, but the problem with that is that if you use a decorticator that's not for hemp, it might not give you the results you need, or it can jam the machine or whatever. But it's a cheaper way of going about it, because you can just get like a secondhand a fiber decorticator. But I can't give you a number off the top of my head, unfortunately. Probably have to look on Alibaba and all that. What I would like to do actually is get some machinery and equipment and processors on the next webinar, so that they can talk to us a bit more about the machinery and the technical side of that. But off the top of my head, I'm really not sure.
Okay.
There's a
Yeah, I saw a machine, a setup for industrial hemp, and I think they said, well, I was reading an article, they had spent like $1.5 million. So that's how I came up with that number, that it is probably around there for an industrial facility.
Yeah, it could be cheaper. It doesn't have to be that much, but it's not cheap. And sometimes the way it's done is kind of it's hired. So rather than paying for the whole bit of equipment, you can just hire it. But yeah, it's not, and that's the thing with the industrial hemp as well. Depending, like if once you're getting into the processing side of things, it starts getting quite expensive. But if you do get that decorticator, and you are the main company that has that decorticator in sort of a region of hemp fiber growers, then and you're off taking that from them, you're going to be making a lot of money. So that first bit of investment is a bullet you have to buy. Okay, Teresa's made a comment. She said it's between. Yeah, exactly. 1 million is very small machine. Yeah, large, about 4 to 5 million. Oh yeah, Teresa. Yeah, thanks for that. Teresa, what do you process, by the way? It'll be interesting to get your perspective. If you don't want to unmute yourself, that's fine, but it'll be good to learn about what you guys do. Stalks. Okay, cool. Yeah, let's connect. Drop me an email and then we can have a chat after this call, and then because yeah, we have a lot of partners in Africa that would be looking to get into the processing, so we can collaborate, whether it be on a knowledge sharing or supplier level or whatever it is. We can partner, we can find a way to work together. So please do send an email or fill out one of those forms. Any other questions, guys? Because if there aren't any, I can just round this up. It's been a great call. So any other questions, guys? I'll take that as a no. All right. Well, thank you very, very much, guys. A special thank you to Maya for agreeing to do this. Thank you, Maya.
Thank you.
You posted your Instagram, right? Yep. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for that, Maya. Thank you for everyone that turned up. It was a great discussion. Hopefully we can get some more coming up in the next few weeks. If you register, if you send me an email, you can always suggest a topic, and we can open up the forum and have another discussion. And yeah, I'm really, really looking forward to keeping this going, guys. And yeah, have a nice evening.
Have a great evening. Thank you so much.
Bye, guys.
Thanks, Malovi. Bye.